What up, motherfuckers? So today I'm gonna do a follow-up on my last video about why For Honor's peer-to-peer servers are complete garbage. Today I'm gonna talk about how peer-to-peer servers are just completely unacceptable for a competitive online multiplayer game or eSport. So let's get into it. So first of all, I guess I should probably define peer-to-peer server in case you don't know what that is. Peer-to-peer server is when one person, like say there are two people in a game, right? One person connects to the other person who's a host. The host has perfect ping, zero ping, no lag, and then the next player and any other players adjust to that host's ping, essentially. That's the way I understand it. I'm not like an expert, but basically the host is going to have no ping. Everyone else is going to have a little variance in ping. Could be bad, could be good. And it also depends upon the number of players that are joining and all that. So, but that's not necessarily super good for a game mode like Dominion. Also, with a peer-to-peer server, some of you old school Call of Duty players might remember this, and this is a example that's been thrown around in other videos. But whenever someone in old Call of Duty would disconnect from a game when servers weren't dedicated yet, remember it'd take like a minute of just a pause screen, and it'd say migrating host, and it would just take a really long time, and then finally you'd get another host, and everyone would be able to play again. It's the same thing in For Honor. Somewhat, it's not like a minute pause; it's more like a 5-second pause whenever the host disconnects, but everyone's situation and in terms of connection speed are at least somewhat slightly affected generally. So peer-to-peer is basically you connect to one of your peers that you're playing with. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. And then a dedicated server is, it's a server in a usually, location, or well, they're all in a location technically. But, you might have a server in Denver, and then, everyone from like Texas to, Missouri or whatever, they connect to those types of servers. They're more regionally based, and the advantages are that there's no host, so if any player disconnects, not everyone's ping has to readjust, and if the host disconnects, because there's no host, it's not like your game's put on hold for a little bit while the server detects who and determines a new host. Um, Also, there's the fact that if one person's having a bad game in terms of connection, it doesn't really affect everyone else. Like a peer-to-peer server would have, it wouldn't like necessarily, if someone's lagging out super hard, it's not necessarily going to make you do the same thing, but dedicated server, you're not going to feel anything on that end if someone, in the game just happens to have 900 ping. Might be kind of difficult to see what they're doing for the most part and adjust to them, but it's not going to make your ping spike. So that's essentially the differences between a P2P server and dedicated. So probably I'd say dedicated servers mostly always preferable. I guess there are some instances where you may not want to use a peer-to-peer server for your game. So if you're like maybe I mentioned in the last game Dark Souls, for example, it's primarily a single player game. You're not buying Dark Souls for the multiplayer, competitive multiplayer, because there really is none. Like, yeah, you can invade people's their game. You can do PvP and all that stuff, but most people don't buy the game. I would say very small fraction actually buy the game for that. Furthermore, connections, like when you connect and invade another person's game or get invaded yourself, generally it's just you and one other player, maybe two. The most I've ever seen in a game is 5, and that's incredibly rare. Mostly more along the lines of, you know, you and another person, maybe a third. So I guess in that instance, it may not be like dedicated server would help, but you're not buying the game for multiplayer. With For Honor, you're buying the game particularly for the multiplayer. I don't know of anyone who would buy this game for the story mode unless you're just chilling in the middle of the wilderness and you happen to have a PS4, Xbox, or PC or whatever, and you just want to play For Honor campaign. But other than that, that's a rare case. most people, I feel like, bought this game for the multiplayer. Now, I don't know about you, but anytime I play a video game in general, the last thing I want to do is spend any significant amount of time in loading screens, waiting for, to connect people in an online, to find a lobby or whatever. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I want to just get into the game. I want to play as much as I possibly can. I think that's pretty acceptable. I feel like most people are the same way. I don't know a single person who just gets super jazzed up over reading, the tip in the bottom left corner of the load screen or whatever. In the case of For Honor, I spend probably just as much time searching for a game outside of peak hours than I do playing. And I also count, games where you just get disconnected 50% of the way through the match. And that's a whole bunch of time wasted. That's super great. Nothing like being on a 12 kill streak or something, having the first good game of the night, and then you just get DC'd halfway through, or when your team's about to win. Lose all your progress, get no experience, just a bunch of time wasted. So that's always super great, and yeah, definitely not something you should strive for as a game developer to be forcing upon your players. If your game costs $60 and literally every game I play, I'm just waiting to get disconnected, it's kind of a surprise when I don't. It's not a good thing. I don't think anyone can argue that that's acceptable. Furthermore, when you come out like Ubisoft did and say, hey, we want to make this game an eSport, you really owe it to everyone who plays the game to invest in dedicated servers. Because if you're going to have a competitive game, you want people to spend lots of time playing it to get good at it so that they can make money off of it and get more attention for your game. The least you should do is make it so that the game fucking works. Most of the time, 99% of the time, if not more. I mean, I know, certain, sometimes Steam will go down for a little bit or PSN or something like that, but it's most of the time I can get onto a game, it'll work, and when I start logging onto a server or something, I don't have to worry about disconnecting mid-match. Like, that's never an issue when I play Overwatch. That's never an issue when I play CSGO. That's never an issue when I play Brawlhalla. That's never an issue when I play Hearthstone. That's never an issue when I play any other competitive game except for this one. I mean, how do you expect me to care about the time I spend playing your game, Ubisoft, when I'm in the back of my mind every single time I log into a server, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm probably just going to disconnect. Why should I give a shit about the game I'm playing? I mean, that just makes no sense. It makes no logical sense whatsoever. So, I mean, I hope that kind of clears things up a little more about why I'm so butthurt about Ubisoft not choosing to pay for dedicated servers. Taken in the context of it's supposed to be competitive. They want it to be an esport, and it's largely based upon reactions and hitting buttons at the correct time with certain visual inputs. You'd think that they'd take more care with their own product, especially if they want it to have any sort of lifespan. And when I see them, saying fuck dedicated servers, we're just going to do peer to peer, and you've already got DLC planned and you've got microtransactions in the game at launch, it just makes me think that Ubisoft clearly doesn't care about anything other than making as much money as they can off their customer base, as any business should. But at least sell me a working product first. So that's all for today.